A locked door in the basement. Missing food from the fridge. Whispers in the dark. I thought I married the perfect man, but I had no idea what he was hiding just beneath our feet. To all my amazing subscribers, thank you for supporting these real-life inspired dramatic tales. If you haven't already, turn on notifications so you never miss an update. And if you're new here, subscribe now to help me bring you even more shocking, romantic, and powerful life stories. We moved in on a Sunday. The sun was shining. The birds were chirping. It felt like the kind of day people write about in journals or post on social media with hashtags like #newbeginnings or #blessed. Edmund had the biggest smile on his face when he unlocked the front door to what he called our forever home. It was a beautiful two-story colonial in a quiet little town outside of Nashville, Tennessee. White shutters. A swing on the front porch. Hardwood floors. Even a fireplace. I thought I had it all. He carried me over the threshold like in the movies. He said he wanted to do everything right this time. That phrase stuck with me, but I didn't ask what he meant. I was just happy. Or I thought I was. The first few weeks were filled with decorating, unpacking, and settling in. I spent my mornings arranging furniture and my evenings cooking while Edmund worked late hours on his consulting job. It all felt normal. Until it didn't. The first strange thing I noticed was the sound. Late at night, when Edmund was asleep beside me, I'd hear footsteps coming from downstairs. Soft. Almost like shuffling. At first, I told myself it was the house settling. Maybe raccoons on the roof. I wasn't used to old houses and their creaks. Then food started disappearing. Just small things at first. A yogurt. A banana. A leftover sandwich I swore I packed for his lunch. When I asked Edmund, he smiled and said, "Babe, you probably ate it and forgot. You're always multitasking." Was I? I wanted to believe him. Then there was the basement. It had a heavy wooden door with an old brass lock. Edmund told me it was off limits, mold issues, he said. Old pipes, dangerous stuff. He promised to fix it up eventually. I didn't argue. Not at first. But one night, I was home alone, and I swear I heard crying. Coming from down there. It was faint. Like someone trying not to be heard. It chilled me straight through my skin. I pressed my ear to the basement door, and I heard nothing. Silence. I told Edmund when he got home, and he laughed. "Honey," he said, kissing my forehead, "you've been watching too many true crime shows. I think the house is just getting to you." Maybe he was right. But then I found the necklace. A delicate gold chain tucked behind the bathroom cabinet, as if someone had tried to hide it. The initials MH were engraved on the heart-shaped pendant. My stomach flipped. Edmund's last name was Hartman. Mine too now. But I didn't know anyone in his family with an M. When I showed it to him, he went pale for half a second. Then, just as quickly, he recovered. "Oh, that," he said casually. "Must have belonged to my mom. She passed a long time ago. I probably tossed it in there during one of my moves." I wanted to believe that. I really did. But that night, when I went to put a load of laundry in, the basement door was slightly open. Just an inch. And I swear, I heard breathing on the other side. I stood frozen in front of the basement door, holding the laundry basket against my hip like it could protect me. That door was always locked. Edmund made sure of it. But tonight, it was cracked open. Just an inch. Just enough to feel the air push softly against my legs, like the basement was breathing. I set the laundry basket down slowly. My heart thudded in my chest, loud enough to echo in my ears. I leaned in, just slightly, and held my breath. That's when I heard it. A whisper. Quiet. Raspy. It wasn't words at first, more like a low hum. Then I realized it was a voice. Hello? It was a woman's voice. I staggered back, banging into the hallway wall. My mind raced for explanations. Could it be a neighbor's TV? Could someone have broken in? But no, the sound came from inside. Below. Beneath the house. I grabbed my phone and dialed Edmund. No answer. Then again. Still no answer. I tried to look brave. Rational. You're tired, I muttered to myself. You're imagining things. But as I stepped forward and gently pushed the basement door, the hinges creaked louder than I expected. It opened, fully. The air was colder, thicker. A metallic smell hung in it, faint but strange. I flipped on the hallway light, but no switch worked for the stairs. The basement was pitch black. I didn't go down. Not that night. I shoved a chair in front of the door, heart pounding, and waited for Edmund to come home. When he finally walked through the door around midnight, I was sitting on the couch, fully dressed, staring at the basement. "What's going on?" he asked, setting his briefcase down. He sounded tired, but alert. I told him everything. The door being open. The voice. The whisper. The pendant. Edmund didn't interrupt. He just stared at me, eyes narrowed. When I finished, he crossed the room and gently took my hands in his. "Jolie," he said softly, "you're under a lot of stress. The move, the house, me working late. I should have been here more." That wasn't an answer. "I heard someone, Edmund." "I'll call a contractor tomorrow," he said quickly. "We'll get the door sealed. No more surprises." "And the pendant?" "I told you. It was my mother's." I wanted to believe him. I really did. So I nodded and tried to sleep, but that night I dreamed of shadows moving behind walls. The next morning, I woke up to Edmund hammering something. I walked downstairs and saw he'd screwed a bolt lock into the top of the basement door. Heavy duty. Like something out of a horror movie. "What's that for?" I asked. "Peace of mind," he said, handing me coffee. But I noticed something strange, his shoes were muddy. And I remembered it hadn't rained in days. I didn't say anything. That was the beginning of my silence. Over the next few days, I started paying attention to things I hadn't before. The sounds at night weren't going away. In fact, they were more frequent. A soft thump. Then quiet. A low rustling. Once, I heard what sounded like a sob. And then, on a Wednesday morning, Edmund left for work, and I found the lock unlatched again. This time, I didn't call him. This time, I opened the door. The air hit me like a wave, cool and musty. I clicked on my phone's flashlight and stepped onto the creaky wooden stairs. Each step felt like it echoed through my bones. The basement smelled like old wood and damp earth. And then I saw her. Huddled in the far corner, covered in blankets and surrounded by water bottles, was a woman. Thin. Pale. Eyes sunken. She shielded her face from the light, but her voice was clear. "Please," she whispered, "don't scream." I stumbled back, but I didn't scream. I wanted to. Every nerve in my body told me to run. But something about her, she wasn't threatening. She looked scared. "Who are you?" I asked, trembling. She looked up. And I will never forget her words. "I'm Beatrix Hartman," she said. "I'm his wife." My heart slammed so hard I thought I might pass out. "No," I whispered. "I'm his wife." Tears welled up in her eyes. "He told you I died, didn't he?" she said, barely above a whisper. "But I never left. He kept me down here. Locked me away." I backed up against the wall. Everything started spinning. This couldn't be real. This wasn't real. But then she held out something that made my blood run cold. A wedding photo. Same house. Same man. Same smile. Different bride. I didn't run. I couldn't. My feet were planted to the cold basement floor as Beatrix, this pale, trembling woman, stood slowly from the corner like a ghost risen from a grave. Her movements were stiff, slow, like her bones remembered what it felt like to be free but didn't quite trust it yet. She was shaking as she clutched that wedding photo between her fingers. Her eyes, sunken, red-rimmed, but desperate, locked with mine. "I swear I'm not crazy," she said. "I'm not dangerous." He told me he'd get help. He said I was sick. He said no one would believe me. I stared at the photo again. Same man. Same Edmund. But younger. Thinner. His smile was the same one I fell in love with. Why? My voice came out broken. Why would he do this? She looked away, rubbing her arms like she was trying to rub away years of confinement. Because I knew too much. Because I found out who he really is. And instead of divorcing me, he made me disappear. I felt the air punch out of my lungs. My hands trembled as I held onto the stair railing. "Tell me everything." Beatrix sank to the floor and began to speak. She told me how she and Edmund had met in grad school. He swept her off her feet, just like he did with me. She thought he was the perfect man, charming, successful, a little mysterious. Until he started controlling things. Where she went. Who she saw. What she wore. He told her she was paranoid. Overreacting. That she needed help. And then one night, she said she blacked out after drinking the tea he made her. When she woke up, she was in the basement. She'd been there ever since. 2 years, she said, her voice hollow. 2 years of hearing life upstairs, of him moving on. He told everyone I died in a car accident. That I'd been cremated. But he never let me go. My head spun. I remembered how Edmund was so quick to move in with me, how he never talked about his past. How he refused to let me help with anything involving the basement or old files. How he always had to be the one in control. Beatrix reached into her blanket pile and handed me a wrinkled notebook. I started writing everything I could remember, she said. Names. Places. Even some of the things I heard him say on the phone down here. I don't know what he's into, but it's dark. I think he hurt someone else. I flipped through the notebook. It was messy, but detailed. And terrifying. And suddenly, I realized, I had to get her out. We had to go. Now. I helped her stand, wrapped her in my coat, and we crept up the stairs. Every creak made us both flinch. I checked the driveway. Edmund's car wasn't there. "Come on," I whispered, grabbing my keys and phone. "We're going to the police." Beatrix hesitated. "He'll find us." "He always does." "Not this time." We rushed outside. I helped her into the passenger seat, heart racing, and took off down the street like hell was chasing us. But just as we turned the corner, my phone rang. It was Edmund. I didn't answer. Then a message came in. "Where are you, Jolie? We need to talk." I hit the gas. 20 minutes later, we pulled up to the local sheriff's department. Beatrix gripped my hand so tight it went numb. Inside, everything felt too bright. Too clean. Too normal. Until Beatrix whispered to the deputy at the front desk, "I'm Beatrix Hartman. I've been missing for 2 years. My husband locked me in a basement. And this woman saved me." The room froze. And so did time. The next hours were a blur. Statements. Photographs. Medical checks. Questions. I watched as Beatrix's story unraveled years of lies, and not just about her. There were whispers of another woman. Another accident. Another mysterious death that Edmund was connected to. That night, police officers surrounded my house. They waited. But Edmund never came home. He disappeared. Just like Beatrix had. The news spread like wildfire. Local man accused of faking wife's death, suspect missing. Beatrix's face, pale and wary, was all over the morning broadcasts. Her story was breaking the internet. And Edmund? Still gone. Vanished like a man who had done this before. I sat on the edge of a hotel bed, gripping my coffee cup like it might stop my hands from shaking. I couldn't sleep. Neither could Beatrix. She sat beside me, silent, watching the window like she expected him to step out of the shadows. It had only been 24 hours. But Edmund Hartman was already a ghost. "He's not done," she whispered. "He's never done until he wins." The police issued a warrant. The FBI got involved. I handed over every photo, message, recording. Beatrix's notebook was copied, scanned, and taken into evidence. But even with all that, he was gone. No passport use. No flight records. His credit cards were cold. It was like he vanished into thin air, or had planned this disappearance all along. And the deeper they looked into Edmund's past, the uglier it got. Turns out, Beatrix wasn't the only one. There had been another woman in Chicago, years ago. Brief marriage. No divorce on record. She went missing. Her family assumed she moved overseas. Another in Arizona. Same pattern. Control. Isolation. Then silence. Each time, he changed his name slightly. Each time, he left nothing behind. And now I was the one who almost became the next name on his list. A week passed. Beatrix was put under protective custody. I stayed in a hotel under a different name, barely sleeping, always checking over my shoulder. Then, something changed. One morning, a package arrived at the front desk of the hotel. No return address. Inside? A photograph. Of me. Sleeping. The timestamp? 3 nights ago. My heart dropped. He had been watching. Beatrix was pulled from protection and relocated immediately. The FBI said it was a game to him now. Psychological warfare. He wanted us to know he was near, without revealing himself. And then we got the call. A body was found. In a cabin deep in the mountains, an old hunting retreat owned under one of Edmund's fake identities. Male. Gunshot wound. No ID. Burned clothes. But the build? The hair? It matched. We were called in for DNA confirmation. Days crawled by. And then came the result. It wasn't Edmund. Relief turned to dread. He'd staged it. Again. Some poor man died to buy him time. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. Beatrix looked like she was ready to break. And I knew, this wouldn't end until we found him. Or until he found us. Then, 3 days later, he made contact. A private email. No traceable source. Subject: you shouldn't have gone into the basement. The message? I gave you everything. A home. A future. You chose her. Now you've taken what was mine, and you think there won't be consequences? You don't even know who I really am. Attached? A single image. Beatrix. Sleeping. Again. But this time it wasn't recent. It was years ago. Her arm had a small 4 in it. She looked drugged. Beneath the photo were 5 words burned into my brain. She was never your hero. My hands went cold. I turned to Beatrix. Showed her the screen. She gasped. I never saw this before. He must have taken it right after he locked me down there. My stomach twisted. Who was this man I had loved? And how far would he go? It was a race now, against a ghost. Edmund Hartman wasn't just clever. He was prepared. Obsessed. And dangerous in a way that no file or case note could fully describe. He wanted control. He wanted revenge. And he wanted to prove that he was always one step ahead. The photo shook Beatrix to her core. The 4 in her arm, her unconscious body, it meant something more than just imprisonment. He hadn't just locked her away. He had sedated her, played God with her memories. Her nightmares weren't just trauma. They were real. We handed over the email. The photo. The twisted words burned below it. Still, the agents were slow. Careful. He had already faked a death once. Twice. They needed proof before action. But I couldn't wait anymore. He was watching. And he was close. I had an idea. A trap. Beatrix and I returned to the old house, the one we once shared. It had been sealed off, but I had the keys. Cameras were installed in every room. Silent alarms. Agents disguised as cable workers and neighbors. We made it look like we were alone. Vulnerable. Then we waited. Hours passed. Then a day. Then 2. And on the 3rd night, the basement door creaked open. I was watching from a screen in the surveillance van outside. He moved like a shadow. Calm. Focused. Dressed in black, gloves on, head low. He moved through the house like he had memorized every floorboard. He entered the living room. Then he whispered. "Beatrix?" She stepped out, hands shaking. "Edmund. Why did you do it?" he said softly. "I gave you everything. You ruined us. You locked me underground." His jaw twitched. "Because you were trying to leave. And I couldn't let you. You belonged to me. You still do." That's when I stepped in. "Back away from her, Edmund." He turned to me, slowly. "You," he said, almost smiling. "The hero. The one who thinks he saved her." He dropped his backpack to the floor. But it was already too late. Agents burst through the doors and windows like thunder. Edmund didn't run. He just raised his hands and laughed. Laughed like a man who had already written the ending. They dragged him out. But not before he looked me in the eye and said something I'll never forget. "You never asked why she was in the basement to begin with." The blood in my veins turned to ice. He was playing one last game. Beatrix was shaking, crying in the corner. I held her. But something about his words haunted me. The case went public. Headlines exploded. "The woman in the basement, a husband's horrifying secret." Edmund was charged with kidnapping, identity fraud, assault, attempted murder, and the death of the man whose body he had used to fake his own. He got life without parole. Beatrix and I tried to rebuild. Slowly. Quietly. Far away from the city, under different names. She started therapy. I kept my job remote. We adopted a dog. Something about it felt like we were trying to rewrite the story in a way that didn't end in tragedy. But one night, months later, she sat beside me and whispered. There was a reason I was in the basement. I turned to her, heart pounding. "I caught him, with someone else," she said. "Another woman. I threatened to leave. That's when he drugged me. Said he needed to protect me from myself." She looked up at me with red, tired eyes. "I never told the cops. I just wanted it to be over." I nodded. And for the first time in a long time, I believed her. But Edmund's final words would never leave me. Not entirely. Because even in prison, even after the mask had fallen, there's always a deeper secret. One we may never uncover. And maybe that's the most terrifying part of all. There's the end.